The secrets of Classroom 36. The children in Classroom 36 were hated by all the other school children. There were many good reasons why they were so hated. First, they were the smartest children in the school, way beyond everyone else. Second, no teacher was ever seen going into their classroom. Third, no one else ever was allowed into Classroom 36. Fourth, the classroom, which stood behind a huge iron black door, seemed, as far as anyone could tell, permanently dark. Fifth, a school child once said that he saw beds being moved into the classroom. Sixth, at lunchtime, the only time the children were ever seen, the corridors were cleared before the children came out. The girls always seemed to be yawning and stretching their arms and rubbing their eyes as if they had just woken up. Yet these were the outstanding students in the school. No one could understand what was going on. It was infuriating. Well, one thing was for sure. These were going to be the most bullied children in the school. And that's exactly what happened. The bullying was outrageous. But the teachers turned a blind eye, as if they hated these children too. The 12 girls from Classroom 36 were known as the Sleepy Harem. No one knew what harem meant, but it sounded naughty, and the name stuck, and no one ever bothered to look up harem. The top girl of the Sleepy Harem was nicknamed Sleepy Sabrine, and she was regarded as so smart that teachers whispered that she was a genius. She was therefore the most hated student of all in the school, and correspondingly, the most bullied. The person who bullied her relentlessly was Jackie Cool. Well, Jacqueline Coulson, to be more exact. Everyone loved Jackie Cool. She was just so, well, cool, and her merciless taunting and bullying of Sleepy Sabrine made everyone else feel good. That Sabrine needed to be brought down a peg or two. And Jackie was just the girl for the job. Not only did Jackie have an acid tongue, spewing constant put-downs of Sabrine and endless quips at Sabrine's expense, she was also delightfully physical and frequently slapped, punched, and kicked Sabrine, and pulled her long, elegant blonde hair. That was another annoying thing about Sabrine. She was ridiculously beautiful, with an annoyingly perfect body, and was just incredibly annoying in general. With her bright blue eyes, she looked kind of angelic, and God, that was just so annoying. So everyone thought it was just and right that Jackie Cool was always on her case, always making her life misery during lunch hour. The thing that no one could understand was the way Sleepy Sabrine looked at Jackie. A sort of puzzled look, but also a sort of look of, is love too strong a word? Probably. It wasn't a romantic love, but some other kind of affection, and it utterly infuriated Jackie Cool and made her even more of a bully to Sleepy Sabrine. "You're not getting my photo if that's what you're wanting," Jackie kept saying. "You're weird." The other thing that everyone noticed was that Sabrine never retaliated, never fought back, and never stood up for herself. What was wrong with this girl? It just wasn't right. It was unnatural. Something was wrong with this whole picture, and this went on day after day. Well, Jackie Cool was determined to find out what was going on. What was the answer to the mystery of Classroom 36? One day, when she was feeling particularly bold, she triggered the fire alarm, hoping to see inside the class during the evacuation. But so annoying. There was apparently another emergency exit from Classroom 36 into a secret courtyard. This was so frustrating. It was unbearable. Jackie needed to know, and nothing would stop her. The ultimate school. Sabrine and the other special girls made their way into Classroom 36. Today, it was inside a balloon. Yesterday, it had been in a castle. And the day before, behind a waterfall. Tomorrow, they were going into the clouds. Sabrine was particularly looking forward to when classroom 36 was on the moon. Sabrine loved school. Every day was a new adventure. Learning new things was her favorite activity. She wanted to learn everything. And classroom 36 made that possible. Classroom 36 had the best teachers. They lived to teach. They seemed to know exactly how to get through to every kid and teach them in the exact way they most responded to. Mr. Carson was taking today's class on ancient Rome. That's why they were in the Colosseum. Mr. Carson was dressed as a gladiator. He always liked to dress up, to get into the spirit. It was so endearing. Mr. Carson said most Romans didn't get an education. They were called plebs, and virtually none could read or write. There was no need for it in those times. Education wasn't a big thing. It was reserved for the elites. Greek tutors often taught the children of the elites. Mr. Carson came over and stood beside Sabrine. Sabrine was sitting at a little school table in the middle of the arena. 50,000 spectators were cheering. Sabrine could see the Emperor Trajan in his box. A huge, fierce lion kept circling her. "Sabrine, tell us the best way to educate children," Mr. Carson said. He patted the lion as it passed. Sabrine smiled and got to her feet, ignoring the huge lion as it brushed past her. "You need spectacular settings that fire the child's imagination," she said. "You need wonderful, inspiring teachers who know how to communicate their subject properly and are full of enthusiasm. Learning must be fun. It must be mind-expanding. An eager mind learns fast. A bored mind doesn't learn at all." Sabrine bowed to the Emperor, who turned his thumb up, signifying his approval of her answer. The lion came up to Sabrine and nuzzled her. She bent down and planted a little kiss on the side of its head. Mr. Carson gathered all the girls round. "Girls, did you know that women fought as gladiators too?" A female gladiator was called a gladiatrix. The girls were amazed. Carson pointed at Sabrine and her best friend. "Come on, you two. Imagine yourselves as gladiatrices. Put on a show for us." The two girls closed their eyes, and the next second, they were in all their armor, ready to fight. "You're going down, Jackie," Sabrine said with a wink and raised her sword. "In your dreams," Jackie replied. A fierce fight erupted that had the Roman audience on their feet. Even Emperor Trajan stood up. Sabrine pushed Jackie with her shield, and Jackie lost her footing and went down. Sabrine immediately positioned herself over Jackie, sword pointed at her throat. "You'll have to beg me for mercy, Jackie," she said. "I am so loving this." But then she threw her sword away and held out her hand to lift Jackie back to her feet. Both girls giggled and hugged. "You got lucky," Jackie said. "Well done, girls," Mr. Carson said. "An impressive demonstration." The girls gave each other a high five. Carson gathered everyone around. "Girls, I want all of you to write an essay on the significance of gladiatrices in Roman culture. You might take a look at what Juvenal has to say about it. Hand those in tomorrow morning." The rest of the school day was spent with the girls excitedly exploring the Colosseum. They went into the Emperor's box at one point and took selfies with Trajan. He kept raising his thumb and grinning. What a wonderful day it was. In classroom 36, history really came to life. It was so much easier to learn when you were having great fun and immersing yourself in what you were studying. The history of dreaming when dreams ended. One of the strangest phenomena is that of dreaming. Apparently, long ago, when humans went to sleep, they engaged in a strange activity involving seeing continuous sequences of images, often presented in story form in their own minds. We call this condition Aphantasia. All normal people are, of course, a phantasiac. Were these people of olden times insane? They must have been if they were always seeing invented things in their minds. Another bizarre phenomenon in times gone by was that people heard an inner voice. This was known as internal monologue or inner voice. It was given the technical name of Aurelia. It's odd to think that humans once had Aphantasia and Aurelia. They could see images in their minds and hear voices. Is that why they were so crazy? Humanity, as we know, became far more stable and peaceful when everyone was aphantasiac and an Aureliac. Inner images and voices made people crazy. They engaged in strange fantasies and delusions. Many were tormented by their own thoughts and couldn't escape from them. All sorts of mental illnesses were generated by people being prisoners of these inner voices that would never stop persecuting and tormenting them. We can understand now that previous humans had too much cortical arousal, hence why they were able to picture things in their head, Aphantasia, and hear voices, Aurelia. Sometimes they projected this inner content onto the outer world. This was the condition known as madness. Mercifully, humanity no longer suffers from this debilitating and destructive illness. The evolution of the mind removed this disturbing trait of seeing images and hearing voices, auditory images, we might say, inside the mind. Bizarrely, some people have claimed that old humanity was superior. They say we are mind blind and mind deaf in comparison. They say we are somehow defective and debilitated. In fact, we don't see and hear invented things, images and sounds, and that has been enormously advantageous for human development. We can sanely focus on reality, on the external world, without being troubled by illusions and delusions internally generated by the mind. It's an odd thing to realize that humans were once drastically different from how they are now. Why did those humans of the past evolve the seemingly useless ability to dream, and why did they then lose it? The age of dreams seems like the most peculiar time in human history. How odd humans once were. We can't relate to them anymore. They weep here for how the world goes, and our life that passes touches their hearts. Robert Fitzgerald, the canteen incident. It was the day of the exam results. The girls of classroom 36 were again way ahead of everyone else, embarrassingly so. The classroom 36 girls shuffled into the canteen at lunchtime, yawning and stretching and rubbing their eyes as usual. The other girls stared at them with pure hate. How could these sleepy girls be so smart, so successful? It was wrong, so wrong. Something had to be done about it. Jackie Cool marched up to Sabrine and grabbed her hair, then pushed her to the ground as hard as she could. She triumphantly stood over Sabrine. Not so clever now, are you? Sabrine turned over and looked up at her. Is this your revenge for what happened in the arena? Jackie stared at her. What are you talking about, freak? What arena? You're so weird. All the other girls laughed at Sabrine. Jackie reached down and grabbed Sabrine by the throat. What is it that you do in that dumb classroom? Are you having a freak show? Is it a parade of the weird that never ends? Sabrine felt a huge explosion building up in her. Something she could no longer stop. Everyone was staring at her, hating her, wishing the worst for her. Sabrine twisted and turned. Oh my God. She was going to do what she must never do. She was going to tell them. She couldn't stop herself now. She looked at all the faces, gazing at her, as if she was a trapped and desperate animal, or a monster. And she blurted out, I dream. The whole canteen fell silent. Jackie, who had been crouching over Sabrine, stood up and took a shaky step backwards, her face drained. You what? She gasped. Sabrine closed her eyes. In little more than a whisper, she repeated, I dream. Then she seemed to gather a mad confidence and defiance. I dream, I dream, I dream. She was almost shouting now. The other 11 girls from classroom 36 helped Sabrine to her feet and protectively gathered around her in a circle. "We dream," they all said as one. "We dream every chance we get. We wish we could spend every second dreaming. We could not live without our dreams." The other girls looked on, utterly appalled, sick to the stomach. They couldn't have been any more shocked. It was as if they had just discovered a coven of witches and caught them in the act of conjuring and worshipping the devil on the stroke of midnight. "No one can dream," Jackie snarled. "It's impossible. You're making it up. You're such liars." "Yes, no one can dream," all the other girls said. "We can," the girls of Classroom 36 insisted. "That's why we're in Classroom 36. Only girls who can dream can be in our class." The canteen door swung open, and Mr. Carson entered, a tall, brutish man with a large black beard. He towered over all the girls. They all drew back as he passed them, as if they were trying to avoid a monster. "What's all this commotion?" Carson said, looking straight at Jacqueline Coulson, as if she were always the source of trouble. Jackie was pale. She pointed at the girls of Classroom 36. "They said they could dream," she spluttered, hardly believing what she was saying. Carson's eyes grew wide. "What?" Carson immediately strode up to the girls of Classroom 36. "All of you go to my office immediately.